So my second virtual field experience went pretty well besides some technical difficulties, but it was a really great experience to learn how to interact with students online. I tried to help students feel more comfortable sharing by getting to know them a bit first and adding my own responses when I asked them to share. I asked them their name and their favorite teacher from South because I also attended there for high school, and I think that helped make things a little bit more comfortable. I went over their previous lesson to help them remember what they learned and explain how we could apply that knowledge to the current lesson, and I encouraged them to ask questions in order for them to fully understand the material. I also tried to give simple descriptions within the lesson plan, so after going over everything, I tried to give another short, simplified definition. I encouraged them to relate the material to their life experiences and encourage them to use the knowledge learned in the lesson in their everyday lives. And I asked them about some of their own life experiences relating to this topic and some of the things that they noticed about the readings in the lesson plan. Over Microsoft Teams, I was able to screen share the materials as well as provide a link in the chat. The chat was a really good tool to use because that way the students were able to access everything on their own computer. And it was nice to be able to screen share so they could see my screen as well. I gave students independent time to explore articles, and then we came back to the video call to share. So it was kind of nice. We all went on mute, and everybody took some time to read the articles, and then I told them all to come back to the Microsoft Teams and turn their camera back on, and then I would know that they're ready to share. And then the students shared their ideas on a Google Jamboard, which was a really fun tool. In some ways, the use of technology was helpful. It was nice that each student had a copy of the materials on their own screen, and it also provided neat ways to share ideas like the Google Jamboard. However, there were many issues with the Microsoft Teams call. It would have been easier if the students had a link to all of the resources before the call started. Getting to all the links took extra time. So I think before the lesson plan, it would have been nice to send them like a Google Doc with all of the links that they might need, instead of putting it all in the chat, because some of that took time for it to load. So it would be nice if they could access that all before the call started. And these are the slides in the Google Jamboard resources. I feel that I did a good job keeping the students engaged. I had come up with a list of discussion questions beforehand, which is very helpful. I tried to add my own ideas to make the students feel more comfortable sharing. I did struggle with having time left over. I ended up finishing up the lesson 5 minutes earlier, and it was hard for me to figure out what to do in that time. I didn't prepare as well for that part as I should have, so it was a little bit awkward trying to figure out how to use up those 5 minutes, but we ended up going into the last slide on the lesson plan, and I had them explore different fact checkers and made sure they were able to access those after the lesson. Next time, I will try to prepare better, especially if there's extra time or try to prepare for there being extra time. I think it'd be helpful to find extra activities using the knowledge from the lesson beforehand. That way, if there's extra time, the students have something effective to do, and they can use the knowledge they learned. I learned that e-learning can be very difficult and frustrating. The technological aspect was kind of frustrating, and there were some difficulties. I learned that it's best to prepare for any troubleshooting issues before the lesson. I learned how to interact with Microsoft Teams fairly well, which I feel will be helpful in future lessons. There were some aspects of Microsoft Teams that I liked better than Zoom. I feel like overall this was a really good way to get used to interacting with students online and just keeping students engaged. This was my first time really doing that, so I think it was a pretty good experience, and I got really lucky with a good group that all responded and participated really well.